Now, some of you might want to know what the difference is of Seaside Bellona and regular Bellona. And some people actually think it's the kit that matters. No, we need to discuss the look. First off, we have the pom-poms and the double split ponytail, and then into the nicely finely defined singular ponytail with the flowers. And as you could see, she went with a nice similar dress, but it's a chic, sheer purple pinkish dress in comparison to this dress, where you can see a little bit of her legs and the whatever these are called, and of course the difference of the fans. Look at the difference of the fans, but there's even more important things about the difference of the fans.
I will do my best.
You heard that? You heard that nice little sound? That was just a little bit of wind power.
How will the battle go?
A little bit of wind power, right? How much wind power you think Seaside Bellona has?
I'll accept your duel.
Did you hear that? Hold on, let me play it one more time. What is going on, guys? It is your boy Cash, and today we are here with Seaside Bellona, and I'm finally going to be doing my lovely little guide on her. She has been making the rounds everywhere, all these ways to utilize her, all these crazy cool ways to get her into different hunts, raids, and more importantly, in our hearts. But as you guys know, one of the first things that we're going to have to discuss here are the base stats. Here the base stats are, so we see that she is actually coming in with a lovely speed of 114, which is pretty good, and the attack is relatively low at 1182, health 5299, defense at 571. She is going to also get a little bit of effectiveness, not as much as her doppelganger, which is obviously the regular Bellona, but you know, a little bit different here. I did cover this when we were revealing the character a little bit, but I want to go a little bit more in depth into this character because I'm actually not going to compare her to the other Bellona, but we're going to compare it to another character that has similar debuffs that she has, which is one, the AoE unable to buff. And of course we got to go with the man, the myth, the legend, Basar. He also has an AoE unable to buff, but if we look a little bit here, he's a little bit slower than she is, and he has a lot more attack, so she's more likely to get it off. And the reason why I'm bringing up them two is just because you could see the slight differences of what they're meant to do. Basar, even though he is going to get a change, and we'll be recovering that once he does get his little change, is that you can see that, you know, he's meant to deal a little bit more damage. 1300 attack in comparison to Bellona's attack, which is only at 1100. Yes, on her skill, her S3, we'll go over that, you know, if it crits, it does more damage. That's cute, but it's just to kind of show you the differences. Also, her health is much higher than his. Her speed is like, she's meant to go first and actually put those debuffs on, specifically not only just for PvP, but of course she's meant to be put up a little bit faster so she can help you out in all these lovely PvE situations as well. I can even bring up Moonlight Araminta in that same regard. You can see that her attack is relatively low, and her speed is actually a little bit low too, but she's meant to pretty much be a debuffer. They give them decent amount of speed, obviously Seaside Bellona being quicker than her. That is why Seaside Bellona's stats are made this way. She is meant to kind of go first, drop her debuffs, and then obviously when we go into the skills, what they do, I know a lot of you are already aware, but I like to break it down bit by bit by bit to make sure that there's no confusion at the end of the day. Let's go into the skills.
Now, bring it on.
Starting with the S1, Watch Out. Acquires 1 focus, acquires 1 soul, attacks the enemy with a fan with a 60% chance to target the enemy for 2 turns. Now, as you guys can see, if you level this up, it's going to go into a 75% chance to target the enemy, which is obviously really good, as it even tells you the target debuff increases damage taken by the target while decreasing the evasion chance of the enemy. Now, the evasion chance thing is kind of cool, but I think most people just like the fact that you're going to take more damage when they're targeted. The evasion thing obviously is okay depending on if the character has evasion built in. You know, I'm thinking like Violet, but also, you know, if there is a Assassin Cartuja, you know, targeting enemies will make it a little bit easier for you. I actually do not know how much the target brings down their evasion, but it's free with the debuff, so you know, we take those. Obviously, all her skills except of her S3 look the same from regular Bellona.
I'll show you what I've got. I'll accept your duel.
And you just hear that loud loud. Like, I don't know why they just upped the bass on her fan. It's like she's really trying to relax. Next up is the S2. I'm with my friends. Consumes 5 focus, so it actually does not give you any souls or anything like that. Now shares 30% of the damage suffered by the caster with the foremost enemy, aka whoever is most in front. When more than one damage sharing effect is granted, only the strongest effect is applied. Now I've said this before, this is super duper awesome number 1 because you can actually run Aureus with Seaside Bellona and it will always prioritize whoever's thing is better. So for whoever is trying to mitigate the damage, it will either take your Aureus or it will take hers. There's no overlap. Tank won't like instantly die from taking 1 billion damage. Aureus will protect the other allies, and then her, since I think the 30% is bigger than Aureus, she will use her passive instead. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Let's continue. The caster gains 1 focus when an allied is attacked. She also gains it when she does her respective attacks as well. When an ally is attacked and the caster stack focus is 5, loses all focus, and activates You're Not Cute. You're Not Cute attacks all enemies with a fan with a 50% chance to decrease defense. As you can see here, only thing you can level up is the damage, which kind of sucks. I would also like to get this up to 75 or even up to 80% because the damage on it is kind of irrelevant, almost like the regular Bellona. The damage of it is like whatever. You're usually using it just for the buff of immunity, and here you're using this for the defense decrease and pretty much just because it's there. So I'm gonna go into Wyvern. I'm gonna do a Wyvern run later on in the video just to show you how amazing this actually is. Last but not least is Haven't I Warned You. Attacks all enemies with a spray of water. It's definitely not a spray, with an 85% chance to make them unable to buff and unhealable for 2 turns. Damage dealt increases with a critical hit. This is what I was talking about earlier. So if you can get her to crit, then you're just like, oh my god, look at the damage. But I think most people have figured this out. As you're looking at her stats, she's better as just a debuffer. And if you want to get really cheeky, if you really have the substats to make her amazing, yeah, you can make her DPS. But at the end of the day, if she's going to be putting 4 debuffs, as we can count them, we got the target, we got the defense break, and we have the cannot buff and unhealable, all great debuffs. And that's more important in my opinion. So I'll be using her more or less as a debuffer that needs to stay alive. That's pretty much what I want her to do. I want her to sit there and be a nuisance and don't really care how much damage she does, because I just feel as though that's being really greedy on a character to get them effectiveness, get them this crit that she needs for the S3, and on top of that, get her like attack on top of that. It's easier to just give her HP and effectiveness, and then she actually just works just from that point. The target debuff is going to allow you to pretty much, you know, everyone else is going to be doing increased damage. They can't buff, nor can they heal. That's going to pretty much stop most things in the game that help characters out. And defense breaks is another one to just help your overall DPS. She doesn't even need crazy attack or anything like that. So let's actually look at the S3.
I'm getting tired of you. Bye-bye now. Run before it's too late.
So boom, she lands the debuffs. Then she has all the stacks, as you can see. She gets 3 here when she does this move, and then she gets stacks every time people are getting attacked. Obviously the Wyvern's going to be attacking. Obviously, if I'm not mistaken, it also triggers off each individual ally when it's an AoE attack as well. We're going to test that out. I'm not 100% sure. I don't exactly remember, so we'll see how that works as well. Also to note that you can soul burn this for 20 souls to ignore the effective resistance to make sure that it pretty much lands. If you level this up, it's 100% effective chance to land, and you can increase the damage as well, but making this 100% plus the ignore resistance will make sure it lands as long as there is no immunity in place. You also gain 3 focus and 3 souls from doing this, bringing it down also to 4 turns if you want to get that cooldown in there as well. So here's my lovely little Wyvern team. I usually use Cigarette because she's a little bit more consistent as far as the bleeds. Every time she puts a bleed, it's like more debuffs, but I kind of been sneaking in Seaside Bellona just to have some fun. Karen, I need to actually give her some Molagora, so this will actually be a lot easier if she actually had Molagora, but I gave most of my Molagora to my Bellona, which we'll check out here. So first I'm just going to do the little tust, and then we'll go into gear a little bit afterwards. All right, here we are. We're at the lovely little Wyvern here. All right, so now let's pay attention to Bellona's thing here. So now he's going to attack. 1. Now it's filled. So this is why.
Let's start with something light.
Okay. Okay, we can take turns talking. It's fine.
Run before it's too late.
So that's why it's really good to have her in Wyvern, is because of the fact that it multi-attacks. That's all she wrote. Ooh, look at that. I'm about to start doing hunt runs in all my guides. Alright, now we should be able to have this guy hit me with the AoE because he just likes to do it so much. And I'm talking about, of course, a hunt daddy. And
It's too late to back up.
thank you for providing content.
It's time to draw my sword.
Though you really can't use, this is really where I wanted to use her because I wanted to test out if you can unable to block, like buff him and then he can't actually do it. But for the love of God, it's so hard to get it because she provides 4 debuffs. If anyone can tell me, I would like to know specifically if you can unable to buff block and then his buff doesn't come on the A hunt. That has nothing to do with Seaside Bellona's guide, but it's just, I love you deeply and I'd give you hugs. Anywho, this is my Seaside Bellona. She's max awakened, max leveled, not max skilled, but you know, I just put a bunch of crap on her, let's be honest here. As you guys know, you're gonna want to have something over 70 if you're gonna be using her because of the effective resistance by minimum is 70. So if you're not at that 70, you're gonna have some problems landing some debuffs unless you soul burn her S3 to drop down those 2 debuffs to make sure you lower the damage of the actual wyvern. As you can see, I have her on speed because I want her in specifically in the hunt. If I'm using her in hunts, I know I'm not going to really outspeed that many people in PvP, but in hunt, I know I can somewhat get her to get those turns a little bit easier. And if you guys are looking for a way to just kind of, like I said, you don't need to give her attack. You need to work on her actual effectiveness. With effectiveness, you got to make sure she does her job. She's there to debuff. That's mainly what she's used for. She's not like Bellona where you're using her as a DPS unit. In my personal opinion, you got to make sure the target, the defense break, the unable to buff, and the unhealable lands. You need to make sure that they land or else you're kind of wasting your time, in my opinion. I wouldn't even be too far out of the way to say maybe even using a health set, 4 set with a health set or multiple health sets with effectiveness. Pretty much that's what you're looking for, in my opinion. I just think that you need to make sure that she survives. She's so good alive. There's certain characters that you can send in there, they can pretty much die after using 1 or 2 moves, but I don't feel like that's the case with Seaside Bellona. Immunity set is always going to be good if you're going to venture into the PvP land, making sure that she doesn't get stunned up or put the increase hit miss or decrease hit chance on you. You don't want any of that nasty gooky stuff on you to make sure that you can land your debuffs. At first I was thinking, oh, maybe she can get some crit, that'd be good, but honestly I just don't care for her DPS oriented wise. If you want to do that, you definitely can. Make sure that she has enough crits so her S3 hits a little bit harder. Also, it's going to help you for your Rengar's drink, you know, so your Rengar's drink hits harder if you're using that. But mainly I think that effectiveness, same thing with, as you can see, the girl biking in the building. I think that effectiveness and any other thing, I feel like your 2 set, you have to have at least 1 2 set of effectiveness unless your substats are godly. You got to make sure that she lands her debuffs. If your debuffer doesn't land debuffs, they are useless. The same way Emma Armintha is literally useless if she does not land her S3 stun or burns, or if there's immunity, she can't do anything. Same thing with Seaside Bellona, you're gonna have to pair her with a stripper to make sure that if they got any type of immunity, you know, we got to get that out the way. Or we have to make her fast enough that she can unable to block so they can't even use immunity. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. You have to make sure that she does her job. Next up, my favorite part is, as you guys know, the artifacts. There it is. It's my favorite part just because I feel like this is what is going to separate my Seaside Bellona from your Seaside Bellona. Wow, this is the first time where I think I can only recommend one of the 5-star artifacts. This one is currently not in the actual game currently. They'll probably put it in the game pretty soon, I would think. But yeah, when you have AoE skills, this one does more damage on your AoE skills, which would help her a little bit. But I wouldn't recommend Bloodstone because then you're going to actually need to be doing good damage, which she doesn't really do. Though her S2 would be kind of interesting if you think about it, you know, because, you know, she has the S3 and then the S2 procs every once in a while. And it's going to proc a lot, actually, depending on what you're fighting. But I still wouldn't put it on her. I feel like there's better ranges that are more DPS focused that will utilize this a lot better. Rengar's Drink is also pretty good, but again, it's more focused on DPS and it's going to help her. Yes, no doubt. It's added a little couple thousands here and there on my runs, but at the end of the day, I don't think I would use this on her. Like I said, I think it's kind of like how Lilibet's artifact was for Samia, like really good for Samia. I actually feel like this artifact is really good for Yuna. I really don't actually like it too much on Bellona, and I'll probably be using one of the 4-star artifacts instead. First up is going to be the Infinity Basket. Reason why is because it's a lovely artifact where it allows your other members, your other attack-oriented characters to dual attack more often, while just allowing you to sit there and just kind of be the hub of the artifact. So it's really cool. It allows your allies to have an increased dual attack chance by about 14%. It's a force artifact, so there's a likelihood that you might have this maxed out, and when the dual attack actually happens, it will actually be 20% more damage. Another way I would also tag team this up is to have another character that is more focused on dual attacking, or even if they have the Unity set, why not actually have that in there as well to really utilize this. And I know some people in their Wyvern runs also use the Terran or Guard. I think that that would be super good to combo a character and an artifact like that. But more or less what I would prefer to use, and this is just me being cheeky and more or less the reason why I even mentioned the Rose Hardna, is to have both. To put Seaside Bellona on Infinity Basket and then have another Ranger in the squad with Rose Hardna. And there's not that many actual Ranger comps I feel like that you can actually really utilize, like double Ranger comp I should say. You could actually run them both together. Seaside Bellona is a monster at debuffing. The defense break and the target would be crazy with actual regular Bellona on Rose Hardna to then S1 into that and do massive amounts of damage. Also, you can use it for Shuri. Yuna's another really good one. Asteria usually is in the party. Depending on what they do to Lidica, you can have her on Rose Hardna. Silk is also not that bad of an option because she lowers combat readiness, and then she can just keep popping off and keep lowering the combat readiness. She actually lowers it by 10 every time she hits. That's actually pretty cool. Now, as far as the 3-star artifacts, I have seen her on Daydream Joker. Again, just another way to just make her damage a little bit more worthwhile, just because she is going to be attacking with the S2 passive. That's going to give her another hit, the S3 popping off, and the S1 just adding a little bit more damage to her, especially like I said, if you're going to be using her for PvE. Those monsters have a lot of health, which is going to make your Daydream Joker do a lot. If I were to say Infinity Basket is number 1, I might even say Daydream Joker is number 2. Hell, I might even throw the rainbow scale on her. Kind of forgot about this one, but yeah, effectiveness and effective resistance on all allies is not that bad when you're trying to primarily debuff targets with her and friends. So just saying, that's just follow the instructions in the instruction manual of the character. Hey, congratulations on Ken. So what did you guys think of the guide? Did you find anything new? Did you think of anything crazy? Was I wrong? Was I right? Feel free to leave all your comments in the comment section below. I read all of them. I reply to all of them. If you guys say something super duper extraordinary, I actually usually will actually pin the comment, as long as it's something that, you know, that really blew my mind. But for a quick recap, I just think that she's primarily a debuffer. I know that there's probably people building her on attack and showcasing the strength of how strong she can be, but at the same time, I feel like I would prefer not to. But hey, if you want to, give her that Bloodstone. Maybe she can heal up the whole world while she's taking reduced damage from the S2. I don't think that that's that bad of an idea. It's you know, she's 30% of her damage is getting sent over to your tank or your frontline character. So it's not really the worst thing in the world to have her with a little bit more DPS. You can run her a little bit more skimpy. But at the same time, if she dies and you don't have a reviver, you just lost a character that literally has 4 debuffs ready to go. So again, I'm thinking effectiveness, tanky debuffer kind of thing, with some attack on the side, but just not the main focus. But remember, every day at the Kashino is your lucky day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.